to discuss what this means for women and their families across America, as well as what companies might be doing to help their employees manage this. Thomas Gross, an adjunct professor at George Washington University's Graduate School of Business. Good to see you, sir. Professor, let me just say this. The blanket for our international viewers, too, is the United States is made up of 50 states, of course, and this original blanket ruling was for all 50 states. This new ruling now would impact, we estimate, roughly half of the states. So half the country where it would be legal and the other half where it would not be legal. Democrats and Republicans often come to the middle and say, well, in cases where the health is at risk or the fetus is at risk, abortions would be allowed. Are you surprised that there were no exemptions in this recent ruling?
Yeah, hi, Phil. Thanks for having me back. You know, I think it's important to understand what this opinion does, what it says, and what it doesn't say. It does say what your reporting has said, which is it eliminates the federal protection under the U.S. Constitution for the right to choose. But what it does not do is say what kind of law the states, or for that matter, even the Congress, could pass. So they weren't trying to address exemptions. And you know, the frightening thing about it is that technically that means that states could pass laws that would force a woman to carry a fetus all the way to term to delivery, regardless of, you know, medical issues, rape, incest, even possible death to either the fetus or the woman. So, you know, the opinion doesn't address those issues. It's really left up to the states to address. But one important point that the opinion does not address is the beginning of life. This is frequently an issue with advocates to eliminate abortion, is claiming that life begins at the moment of conception. That concept does not appear, at least on the first reading I've had, does not appear in this opinion. And instead they use a phrase, potential life, to describe the fetus. So it's the opinion is really limited to eliminating the constitutional protection for women to choose. But other than that, doesn't give a lot of guidance.
Right. Help our international audience understand, and you alluded to this earlier, the states now become the, I guess, the decision maker as to whether or not it's legal or not legal. So for example, in Texas, it may not be legal, and in California, it may be legal. Maybe help explain to us what the ultimate impact is going to be for families and if they have to travel.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a great question. And I think we start with the words in the opinion itself. And what the opinion says, it doesn't say the issue now belongs to the states. What it says is that the issue is now returned to the people and their elected officials. So people are interpreting that as meaning return to the states, but it also means you could have federal action, meaning Congress could adopt its own statute, which would have nationwide effect for all 50 states. But if the states are enacting their own statute, and as your reporting indicated, roughly about 12, 13 states have trigger laws that arguably are in effect or will be in effect imminently, the issue now shifts from the right under the federal Constitution to whether the state has exercised, has passed this law consistent with its own state constitution. Every state has its own constitution. And this is what we're seeing in your reporting, that the parties are filing petitions with the courts saying you need to put a stay in place for this trigger law. And you know, the first one that I'm aware of was actually in the parish of New Orleans, called Orleans Parish, where, you know, remember this opinion just came out Friday, right? So people were not sitting on their hands. They had these petitions ready to go and they filed it Monday.
Right.
And they got a temporary restraining order out of the parish for New Orleans. Now, a couple of points there. A temporary restraining order means it's ex parte, meaning the other party is not present to present their views. And courts are very reluctant to do that unless you can show substantial interim damage and a likelihood to win on the merits. So for them to get a TRO and say, we're going to delay the Louisiana statute until we can have a full-blown hearing, now scheduled for July 8th, that's a pretty big thing. And we're seeing similar, as you're reporting, we're seeing similar things happen in Kentucky, Idaho, Florida, Ohio. In Kentucky, they filed a 12, 13-page petition, which is very powerful petition. So the battle has moved from the federal constitution to the state constitution.
Right. Thomas, my producer, is giving me one more question here. I want to get to this because this is important, okay? Yeah. By the way, the TRO is a temporary restraining order. But here's the question. For businesses, we've seen Chase Bank, we've seen a flood of companies come out and support their employees on this particular matter, saying that they will pay for their employees on their health care plans to get the help that they need. What advice are you giving to companies that are coming to you saying, how should we respond to this without getting political?
Oh, I think they should respond to it because it goes to the health of their employees. And this is one of the most valuable assets a company has, is their employees. So, I mean, I certainly commend them for doing this, but they could be treading on, difficult legal grounds if states choose to enforce statutes against them, either criminally or civilly. Now, I would note that whether a company or an individual or a doctor is charged is really up to the prosecutor in the state. And those prosecutors have something called prosecutorial discretion. And right now, there's not a lot of infrastructure in place in the prosecutor's office to go after abortion crimes. So, what we're hearing from the prosecutors, we heard this in New Orleans, we heard it in other states, they are not actively going against doctors, corporations, or anybody right now because they don't have the resources to do it.
Look, this issue just happened on Friday. I think there's a lot to flesh out on this as to how these states are going to react, and we're getting more and more comments from companies every single day on this. Thomas Gross, thank you for helping explain what this means for everybody here in the U.S. that is watching this. All right.